Heading into this offseason, we heard lots of rumors and reports come out talking about the New York Rangers being more than likely pretty active on the trade market as they were going to be looking to try and make some serious upgrades and changes with this roster. And they definitely did so, not just this offseason, but also this past regular season with, trading away a guy like Filipino, adding in JT Miller, shipping off Lindgren, shipping off Kakko, Trouba. So we saw lots of trades happen, pretty decent sized one as well this past regular season before the trade deadline, and even into this offseason so far, we have seen two pretty big size trades as well, with Keandre Miller being signed and traded over to the Carolina Hurricanes in a deal which the Rangers got back a higher tier kind of upper echelon prospect and a first and second round pick. And the Rangers also traded away a longtime kind of core player of this team and a fan favorite among many in Chris Kreider as well. So this team has obviously made lots of changes, and they may end up looking to continue that and may look to make some more trades and make some more changes. So in today's video, we're going to take a look at two different mock trades that involve the New York Rangers trading for a top 6 caliber forward. And these are both two players that I do think are somewhat realistic to be kind of traded away at some point throughout the rest of this offseason, or at least in the somewhat near future. So let's just get right into things here, and we'll start off with the first player of the two, and that is Jason Robertson. This is a player who we, especially as Rangers fans, have seen a lot of trade talks surrounding this player and him also being linked to the Rangers. So this is someone who has been involved in lots of trade rumors and possible talks. It seems like the Dallas Stars are kind of shopping him around a bit, and it does make sense why they would be. They're in a pretty tight kind of cap crunch right now after, of course, picking up a true superstar, an elite talent in Mikko Rantanen, and having to give him a pretty massive contract. Of course, they're pretty tight on their money right now, especially after a guy like Wyatt Johnston. He also got his deal, and they have an abundance of other, pretty good young players, and overall just other good players that have some pretty high cap hits. So they're kind of struggling cap-wise right now, and I think this is a team that it would make a lot of sense for them, of course, to trade away a guy like Jason Robertson. He is a star-caliber player. I don't think is quite that superstar that some kind of seem to think he may be, or at least can kind of still be. He had that one amazing season back in 2022-23 where he put up 109 points in 82 games played there. But other than that, the last kind of 4 seasons, other than that one season there, has been around that kind of 80-point mark pretty consistently, having back-to-back seasons now, having 82 games played, 80 points the last 2 seasons. So it's definitely pretty clear that Jason Robertson is a good player. He's a top 6 caliber forward, an all-star caliber winger, but my point is, I don't think he is a true superstar caliber guy. And when you take a look at not only what the Rangers might have to give up in a trade, but also what they'd have to give up, extending him because he needs a new contract, he is apparently looking for somewhere around like possibly upwards of like $11-12 million per season, which to me is insane for the quality of player he is. He is worth nowhere near that. I think he is a good player, but to be upwards of 11-12 mil, I think is a bit of a stretch there for sure, unless he goes out there and has another like 100 plus point season there, putting up like 110 points. To me, he is definitely not worth that, because back-to-back seasons now being around 80 points. Then 3 seasons ago, he had 109 points, which phenomenal, great. That is about that 11-12 mil player for sure, but he hasn't done that the last 2 seasons now. So to me, he is more of that kind of point per game, maybe like 80 to 90 point kind of guy instead of that 100 point plus kind of player, which maybe he was possibly going to be at some point. I mean, you saw at one point there, but haven't seen since. So to me, he may not be worth quite that amount of money, of course, 11-12 mil per season, and he also may not be worth quite this amount in trade value as well. So let's take a look at what this trade package is for Jason Robertson. So they have the Rangers sending over to the Dallas Stars Gabe Perreault, Brennan Othmann, a 2026 first-round pick, and a 2028 third-round pick for Jason Robertson straight up. And personally, I think when you kind of add into the fact that you're going to have to pay him more than likely 10 plus mil, because it definitely seems like he's won quite a bit more than that, and he's probably going to get something close to that mark, at least around the 10 mil mark. So minimum about 10 mil there per cap hit, going forward in the future for Jason Robertson, a, good player, but is he a superstar? I would say not. So I don't think I want to quite see him get superstar kind of money. And you always got to consider the Rangers not only having to pay him a lot of money, which I'm not completely against, because yes, he is a good player, but on top of what you're giving up, salary cap wise now, you have to give up also your top prospect, your kind of most promising player right now in Gabe Perreault, who has that kind of potential to be a true 100 plus point kind of player, like an Artemi Panarin level kind of guy. And then you also are sending away another former first-round pick in Brennan Hoffman. You're also sending away a 2026 first-round pick, so it'd be either the Rangers pick or that, conditional kind of pick there from the Dallas Stars, which could be either one of the Canes or kind of Dallas's first for next year. And then you also got that 2028 third-rounder in there as well. So a first and third-round pick, and then you also got your top prospect and another kind of top 5 or at least top 6 or so prospect in Brendan Hoffman. So you're giving up a lot there on top of paying him possibly upwards of 11, 12 mil apparently, which to me would be absolutely insane and quite ridiculous. So I'm probably not the biggest fan of trading for a guy like Jason Robertson with all that being said. And that's the thing. You can't just account for what you're giving up trade value-wise. It's also what you're going to have to pay that player because he is going to need a new contract right away pretty much. And that's kind of my problem on top of that. You're also, not only, like I said, giving up all this value, a first-round pick, a third-rounder, and to your top prospect, including your top one, a true superstar potential player in Gabe Perreault, but then you're also paying him an insane amount of money, which I just think he's not quite worth. To me, he is a good player, a top 6 caliber forward, but he's not a true kind of superstar caliber player, which I think is pretty clear. Unless he gets back on track, to being a 100-plus point kind of guy, to me, this is definitely not quite worth it and should not be a realistic target for the Rangers. At the end of the day, if they were able to make some kind of a trade where I guess they're shipping off Zibanejad and then they're, bringing in a guy like this, then I guess it makes sense to kind of make that cap work. But other than that, to me, if this was a guy who you're bringing in to kind of replace Panarin leaving, let's say for next year, for example, and you're giving up all this plus you're having to pay him that much, to me, that's probably not quite worth it, but at the end of the day, he is still a good player, just not quite sure he is the best fit for the Rangers with all this being said. And next up here, we've got a very interesting target and someone who I think would honestly be a pretty incredible pickup for this team. It would be kind of tough to make the money work here with pretty much any move the Rangers make from now on out. If there's going to be something of significance, they're going to have to go out there and kind of ship off a player to make the money work, even if the team is kind of retaining some salary. So most big kind of deals aren't going to be easy for the Rangers. This is obviously one of them as well, but this player does have 3 more years left with a $6.5 million cap hit, and the player is Brayden Schenn. This is someone who I think is a pretty solid kind of second-line two-way centerman who is quite physical. This past season had 194 hits while being a really solid kind of 50-point centerman who's a solid penalty killer, good face-off taker, just an all-around really solid two-way physical centerman, so I think would be a pretty great pickup. And adding him into this team right now would create a pretty amazing kind of center core there with your kind of 1, 2, 3, even 4 punch of being JT Miller, Vincent Trocheck, and then you've got Brayden Schenn as your kind of third line center, and even as your fourth line center, you've got Sam Carrick with some extras being a kind of Johnny Brodzinski type or a Mika Zibanejad type. So I think overall, this would provide some incredible depth down the middle and some incredible talent down the middle as well, which I think this team could really, if they want to go out there and have a legit chance at possibly winning that cup, even a slight chance of doing so, they're going to have to go out there and upgrade that third line center spot unless Juuso Parssinen or someone else takes a big step up this season there. I just don't think it's quite good enough there. That third line it isn't going to quite be good enough yet because it's going to be quite young there, especially if you have a guy like a Hoffman or a Perreault or a Berard on that third line, plus a Parssinen type. So I don't think that's quite strong enough to, of course, win a cup. So adding in a guy like Brayden Schenn would really solidify that line, and especially adding in a guy like a Perreault alongside a Brayden Schenn there on that third line with maybe a Taylor Radish or a Berard on the other side, I think could be a pretty interesting kind of third line. But let's get on to the actual mock trade here, and this is one that I actually think is pretty good value and much better value than the other one, the Jason Robertson one, and that is the Rangers sending away possibly a 2026 second-round pick, Juuso Parssinen, and Brett Berard straight up for Brayden Schenn. And I don't think that would be a terrible trade for either side. I think it could make sense for both sides there. To make this work, I would have to imagine the Blues would definitely have to retain some salary. So whether or not they'd want to do that with it being, like a 3-year deal, of course, left or 3 years left on the deal, we'd have to wait and see, and maybe it'd cost a little more on top of what this package is. But I do think if they want to go out there and add in a really impactful piece, this is someone who could possibly be available as the Blues maybe want to go in a bit of a younger direction. Maybe they want to get some solid assets for the future. This could make some sense here. The Rangers maybe want to pick up a more kind of win now piece, and I know lots of fans don't want to see that happen, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what we want as fans. It matters what James Dolan, the ownership, and the kind of management wants. So if they want to go out there and add in another kind of solid win now piece, a guy like Brayden Schenn definitely kind of fits that mold, and I do think could be a pretty realistic target that could be available, but also wouldn't go for an insane amount of value, right? A second round pick, Yuso and Brett, or maybe you have to give up like maybe it is a conditional second or a higher tier prospect instead of Brett to get some money retained there. Even then, it might not be a bad idea because he does have 3 years left, and if you're getting like, let's say like $2.5 million retained on his salary there, and you're getting that cap it down to like $4 million for another 3 years of a more than capable second line centerman who can be a all around kind of really good player and brings some physicality and can play wing if he needs to, I just think that would be a pretty incredible pickup there. So if you can get him for something like this, I would not be against that at all. I definitely am not against, kind of sticking more towards the future here and not going out there and making another kind of big win now kind of move. But I do understand that the Rangers want to go out there and make that win now move. A guy like Brayden Schenn could really be a perfect target for this team. Anyways, that's going to do it for today's video. If you have enjoyed, definitely don't forget to click that like and subscribe button for daily New York Rangers content, as I do post every single day. And I truly do appreciate it when you all do hit that like and subscribe button. It means a ton. I love making these videos. I post them every day, but when you show some support of the videos, it means a lot. So if you have enjoyed, definitely hit that like and subscribe button for daily Rangers content. And also, definitely don't forget to comment down below your thoughts on today's video. Do you kind of agree with my take there on thinking that the Jason Robertson trade isn't the best there maybe for the Rangers and the Schenn one is quite a bit better? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Would you want to see the Rangers trade for either of these two players? Which other kind of, top 6 caliber forwards or top 4 caliber defensemen do you want to see the Rangers trade for? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'll catch you in the next one, and let's go Rangers.